quick. Is it more likely that a word picked at random from English starts with the letter K or has K as its third letter? Take a second, actually answer it in your head. Most people say starts with K. It's not even close. There are roughly twice as many words with K in the third position. Nobody chose wrong because they're bad at English. They chose wrong because of exactly how their brain estimates likelihood. That's one of the most famous demonstrations in psychology, and it reveals something running underneath almost every quick judgment you make. The common assumption is that bad judgment calls come from not thinking hard enough, that if you just slowed down and reasoned more carefully, you'd get it right. Reasoning harder is always the fix. Except in this case, thinking harder usually doesn't help, because the error isn't a reasoning failure. It's a byproduct of a shortcut your brain uses on purpose, thousands of times a day, because it usually works. In 1974, psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman published foundational work identifying a handful of mental shortcuts, heuristics, the brain uses to make fast judgments under uncertainty. The K-letter question demonstrates one called the availability heuristic. You judge how common something is by how easily examples come to mind. Words starting with K are just easier to recall than words with K in third position. So starts with K feels more frequent, even though it isn't. A second shortcut, anchoring, shows up just as reliably. In one classic experiment, people spun a wheel rigged to land on either a low or a high number, then were asked to estimate what percentage of United Nations countries are in Africa. People who'd just seen a low number guessed lower. People who'd just seen a high number guessed higher, even though the wheel had nothing to do with Africa, the UN, or anything else in the question. An irrelevant number, just seen moments earlier, quietly pulled the estimate toward it. Daniel Kahneman later organized decades of this research into a simple framework, a fast, automatic System 1 that makes these snap judgments, and a slower, effortful System 2 that can override them but usually doesn't bother to. Here's where it gets more interesting than your brain is broken. A different research tradition, led by psychologist Gerd Gigerenzer, argues these same shortcuts are often adaptively smart, not flawed, what he calls fast and frugal strategies that perform remarkably well using very little information in the actual environments people live in. His argument is that the errors Tversky and Kahneman elicited often come from artificial lab questions built specifically to expose the shortcut's blind spot, not from how heuristics perform out in the real world, where they usually get you to a good enough answer fast. The stakes version of this shows up in places like medical diagnosis and financial decisions, where a doctor's or investor's fast, experience-based intuition is usually remarkably accurate, right up until a rare, unfamiliar case arrives that looks similar to a common one, and the same shortcut that normally saves time quietly produces a confident, wrong answer. Both camps have real evidence. The heuristics and biases tradition can reliably produce the error in a lab over and over. The ecological rationality tradition can point to real-world domains where the same shortcut performs better than slower, more careful reasoning. Treating heuristics as purely broken ignores how well they usually serve you. Treating them as infallible ignores exactly why this channel exists. The honest picture is that the same shortcut can be either, depending entirely on the situation it's used in. So the shortcut that let you correctly guess 100 things today without effort is running on the exact same machinery that will make you confidently wrong about the one thing where the fast answer and the correct answer don't line up. It's not a flaw you can reason your way around by trying harder in the moment, because in the moment, it doesn't feel like a shortcut. It feels like an obvious answer. Here's the practical version. You can't turn off heuristics, and you shouldn't want to. They're doing real work correctly most of the time. What you can do is learn to recognize the specific situations where they reliably fail, unfamiliar categories, high stakes, and anything involving probability or rare events. If you're estimating how risky a rare event is, a plane crash, a specific disease, a specific investment losing money, that's exactly the availability heuristics blind spot, because vivid, memorable examples get overweighted regardless of actual frequency. In exactly those situations, slow down deliberately and check the numbers. Your brain guessed starts with K with total confidence. It'll do the same thing again tomorrow, on something that actually matters, unless you know exactly when to check it. Once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere.